It's another postgame edition of the Golden Blue Nation podcast. And for the first time in a long time, it's a victorious rendition of a postgame show. Nick Farrell here. We're brought to you as always by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery. And we're coming to you after West Virginia pulls off a 45-35 upset of the nationally ranked Houston Cougars. How about that to start the month of November? It's a handful of things. And so we welcome in Cody, Nespor, Golden Blue Nation's digital beat reporters. We recap this game. Let's rattle it off the list, Cody. It's Coach Rodriguez's first win in the Big 12 Conference as the head coach of the Mountaineers. It's also West Virginia's first-ranked win away from Morgantown since 2018, the Will Greer-Gary Jennings game against Texas. And it is still an opportunity, perhaps. That door is cracked open for West Virginia to still get to 6-6 and finish 500 in year one under Coach Rodriguez and be bowl eligible. You saw the progress from UCF, not good enough, to TCU, right there to win the game late, to then not just winning this game, Cody, but playing really good football at times and arguably controlling the game from start to finish.
Progress is the perfect word, Nick. I think that was maybe the most frustrating part of that losing streak is week to week, the team was not obviously getting better. Like, there was no area of the team where you were seeing improvement. Part of that is injuries, guys in and out of the lineup. Part of that was just not flat out not playing well. And so you have a really promising performance last week against TCU. All of us in the media spent all week talking about the offense took a step, the defense played much better. And for that to materialize today, in a really great performance on the road against a team that had only lost one game. That's maybe the best part of this is we saw a material step last week and we saw them capitalize on it and play a very, very sound football game today on the road.
Yeah, so let's get into it then, Cody. For West Virginia, I think you got to start with the quarterback, Scotty Fox, who made his third consecutive start as a true freshman. If you're talking about guys who made a huge leap, he is definitely one of them, right? The TCU game was a terrific performance, really, from Scott, who threw for 301 yards. That's the most by a true freshman ever at WVU. And keep in mind that he was the first true freshman to start for West Virginia in nearly 75 years when he got the call against UCF. But all of that aside, Fox really showed command of the offense today. I thought he didn't have the same passing numbers as he did against TCU today against Houston. That's because West Virginia ran the ball much better, and we'll discuss that in a little bit because that's a very big topic too. But Fox really, again, taking another step forward, and you can kind of tell that with each rep he takes, he's getting more and more comfortable in there, making better decisions in Coach Rodriguez's system, and has the trust of the teammates around him, which is so important for that position.
Right, and if you think back to UCF, Scotty only survived the first three drives before Rich took him out because he wasn't comfortable. He was not in command. There wasn't a single play where he looked like he was confident in what he was doing. Come back home, obviously an easier environment than being on the road. Have that great game at TCU, and we saw that carry over directly into this one where you're absolutely right. Very confident, no second guessing, no double clutching. Get the ball, knows where he's going with it, knows what the play is. The long touchdown run late in the second half, Rich Rodriguez said that was a RPO that they've called a couple times, but this was the first time Scotty ran it, read it and ran it correctly. And really, the last 2 weeks for him as a true freshman, he's exploded. I mean, from after that performance in Florida to play like this the last 2 weeks against two quality teams, it's really been a spectacle.
13 of 22 for 157 and a passing TD with a long completion of 53 yards. That's the final line on Fox. But as we mentioned a moment ago, Cody, the real area where West Virginia on offense manhandled Houston in this game was in the rushing department. The final numbers were really impressive, especially from a WVU team that struggled to run the football against TCU and had to rely on the passing game to stay in that contest late. Final rushing tally, net rush yards for WVU, 246. Houston, the nationally ranked Cougars, sub 100, finishing with 82 rushing yards. Fox, you mentioned that long touchdown run. That was huge late in the game, but also Dior Hubbard and Sincere Bowers getting a bunch of carries today, and each of them finding the end zone. Hubbard going for over 100 yards, too, net of 108. Just really impressive stuff from WVU. And I think you'll agree, Cody, that you have to credit the offensive line. That's a group that has definitely struggled and has come under the microscope after each of these losses during a 5-game losing streak. But today, man, there were a lot of holes, and the running backs and the quarterback Fox found ways to hit them.
Yeah, the offensive line got great push today. I mean, we maybe all season, or at least since Robert Morris, we haven't seen them really move the line of scrimmage like they did today. And Dior Hubbard, he would maybe get my game ball on offense. The way he ran, it reminded me a ton of Ty Edwards in the brawl of probably count on one hand the number of times he went down on first contact. Just keep the legs moving. Like Rich said postgame, like make them tackle you. Be a load to tackle. He really was in a way that he hasn't been all year. Like he's another, redshirt freshman, hasn't played a ton before this year, and has really taken off now that he has a few games under his belt. And him and Scotty, like obviously they're pressed into service because of injuries, but the way they've kind of stepped up to be the guys in the backfield has been spectacular.
And that's a reminder of why these final 4 games are so important, right? We discussed earlier, yes, West Virginia still has kind of a long shot chance of running the table here, going 4-0 in November and making a bowl game. But really, if this nucleus is going to stay together, this offensive nucleus is going to stay together under Coach Rodriguez for another season, maybe several seasons, these final games are so important because it's all about growth and development. It's about the future of WVU football. And if this is going to be the future, that it's looking pretty good, right? Compared, of course, to the bad losses that this team suffered. But sometimes you have to take knocks, and it's kind of a given when you have so many young and inexperienced players in a system. But this was a really positive sign for WVU. So we have to talk about the defense and special teams too, because those units really impacted and shaped this game. And I don't think we can talk about defense with what I thought was the most impactful play of the game, Cody. It's the turning point, brought to you by First Green Mortgage. Your home is the heart of what we do. Visit them online at fgm.bank, equal housing lender. How about a second half pick six? First defensive touchdown of the season for WVU. Jordan Scruggs, 80-yard interception return for a house call. That was the play in that second half where it was tight. Houston could have come back to win the game after tying the score at 21 apiece before halftime. But WVU there extends it back to a 10-point lead and never looked back after a great read and a great return by Scruggs.
And that was a real kind of growing up moment for this team, because we've seen them, Nick, in this losing streak have good moments. They a couple of the games they started well, but then it's like that first bit of adversity, they just lose it and fall apart. And right there, they were up by 3. They kicked that field goal, and Houston was driving, and it looked like they were going to at least tie it. They were getting into the red zone, and for an 80-yard pick six that gave West Virginia the lead, they never gave it up. Real kind of maturing moment for this young team there, to where, if Houston scores and takes the lead, who knows what happens? Maybe they're, like Rich said post game, there have been times where they look at the scoreboard, they're down, and they just say, "Oh shucks, woe is us." To get that to even increase your lead there to 10, you don't even have that opportunity. So like I said, a real, I think growing up moment for this team, to not just hang their heads and say, "Oh shucks, Houston's going down to take the lead," to really kind of, just like you said, turning point, take control of the game right there and never look back.
Yeah, Zach Alley's defense, Coach Alley referred to it as a return to early season form against TCU. Coach Rodriguez said that he didn't think that this was the team's best defensive performance of the year. I would be interested to know what he thinks is. To me, certainly against a power conference opponent or in Big 12 play for sure, this was the best defensive performance for West Virginia. 3 sacks, 5 TFLs. The defensive front really got after it. 3 total takeaways, 2 picks, 1 fumble recovery. And then you had that huge special teams play late where the Mountaineers recover a muffed punt and then go ahead and get a first down and then kneel out the game. That was another really significant moment in the contest when it was a 2-score game. It just took any possible life, any possible chance for a Houston comeback, and just zapped it right away.
Yeah, and you have to talk about special teams. This was just a beautiful, complete 3-phase victory for the Mountaineers. Obviously that, muffing a punt, recovering it late to run the clock out, like that stands out. Some other subtle things. Cade Hensley, 50-yard field goal. The first 50-yard field goal in a couple years for the Mountaineers. That was to give them back the lead there early in the second half after that first interception. That was an important momentum builder because Houston had tied the game right before the half. They were driving down the first drive of the second half, get the interception, you cash in, right? Long field goal, you actually cash in. We've seen this team squander turnovers before where they don't get points. And then a really, really understated thing, all the touchbacks on kickoffs today, they've switched. Nate Flower is handling kickoffs now. I think all but 2 were touchbacks. That's huge. I think back to that Kansas game. They got killed in field position because Kansas was returning kicks because they couldn't get to the end zone. And Nate Flower just kicking it into the end zone. You think, hey, if that saves 10, 12 yards every drive for Houston, that's big. That adds up. And that's the one of those little things that West Virginia hasn't done the last month or so that they did today. And obviously the pick six, the offense, all that stuff stands out. But that just something little like that, being able to kick the ball in the end zone, makes a world of difference.
Really, really solid performance overall by West Virginia in a 45-35 victory over Houston in the Space City. Mountaineers were double-digit underdogs going into this game and figured out a way to get the job done. A potentially huge moment. We discuss turning points on this show every week. Could this be a turning point in the season? West Virginia has its first victory in Big 12 Conference play under Coach Rodriguez and its first victory overall since that incredible overtime victory against Pitt in the Backyard Brawl. We'll hear from the head coach in just a little bit. We're recording this about 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Coach Rodriguez just wrapped up at the podium a few moments ago. We'll hear the head coach's thoughts on this performance when we come back after this quick word from our sponsor, Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, home of the same-day smile.
The reason I came to the practice was because I had had some teeth extracted and I wanted to get some replacements for it. We did a treatment plan to see how many implants they were going to place, and now I'm actually just waiting to get the crowns. The thing I liked the most about coming here, I was greeted with a smile, everything ran smooth, and that they were really going to do what I wanted them to do to make my smile a little better. They're some of the best doctors, and you will get good quality care.
Searching for a mortgage lender that's 100% local, personal, and focused on home loans? First Green Mortgage has been serving West Virginia for more than 35 years, and they can assist you with every step of your home ownership journey. Visit them in Bridgeport or Morgantown or at fgm.bank.
Great win against a ranked team on the road. We're going to enjoy the heck out of it for 24 hours and then move on. But really proud of the guys.
So, Rich, a lot of conversation about the offensive line, mostly negative through the first 3 games, but this game, it seemed like they really imposed their will. Talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, we talked all week about coming off the ball, and know they're capable of doing it, and they did it. And to end the game with getting a key first down when everybody knows you're going to run it, kind of embodies what we want up front, And we could have done some different stuff, but I wanted to kind of see if we can do it. See, can we make a first down when we have to make a first down, and everybody knows we're going to run it, and they did, and sealed the game. So it was, and then our freshman quarterback is growing up. He's, really poised, seeing things out there. Proud of the way he played, and the running backs ran. Dior Hubbard ran his tail off. Man, I challenged him. I said, we got to run hard. Make them tackle you, and he ran possessed today. So it's really good.
You could see it on your face after the first 2 series. Just relief, happiness, I guess, combination of several things.
Yeah.
Did you see that on your players too? That hey, we're getting this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been frustrating because we started off so slowly, and it was surprising because I thought, I've been doing this a long time. I thought our practices were better. I thought they would come out better, and I think sometimes it's just confidence or what have you. But they came out with confidence today, and there were a couple new things we did, but for the most part, they just executed better. And our defense made some big turnovers, created some points for us. It's just a good team win.
Go more into Scotty a little bit. I mean, he made a lot of big plays, but the best he did was maybe not make the bad one.
Took care of the ball. Didn't throw into harm's way. Was seeing the field. There's a couple things. Our quarterbacks make so many decisions in our offense, in the run game and the pass game, that you're not going to be 100%. But for a young guy, he was pretty solid, and he ran the ball well. But he's got next level arm talent. I think you see that, and there's not a throw that he can't make. and he made some phenomenal ones today.
Every time Houston started to come back, whether it be on the offense with drives or the 80-yard pick six, just how was that to see your team react the way they did?
Yeah, that was part of it. This like when you're struggling at times, it's like you can look at the scoreboard and say, "Oh, woe is me," and I don't think there was any of that today. We got the lead and that helped, but even when they came back a little bit, there was no like panic anywhere, and that kind of, I guess, lack of a better word, maturity with the game situation is what we've been wanting all year, and we got it today against a good team.
Not only did it click, but it clicked right away. That opening drive looked so different than the other opening drives in recent weeks. Was there anything specific that?
I think the biggest key, Jed, was getting the first 2 first downs and getting 5 or 6 yards on an inside run. That gives you a lot of confidence. And there were a couple new things we put in, but and we used those in the first drive. But I think we came off the ball better. We just came off the ball better, and we needed to.
Scotty's quarterback draw, was that a specific play you held back for a little bit? Or
No, we've got variations of it. That's one of our RPOs that we use, and we've called it a few times. He read it right. They really lightened the box up and went out and doubled our wideouts and gave him, and he made a great decision there.
Talk about the turnovers, 4 takeaways. How much of that was you just forced?
I think it was
the
the
whole day
first
in a dirty pocket.
Yeah,
right?
the first. I think that was the first defense score we got, right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge pick. And we had some other opportunities. He got rid of the ball. There was so many times that we were close to sacking a quarterback, and we didn't get it. But we got some pressures, and I thought our without blitzing sometimes we got burned a little bit a couple times in blitzing, but without blitzing we still be able to get some pressure on them with our DNs, and that helped.
One of those guys got pressure was Jamori. He seemed to have
Yeah,
a big impact in this game.
Jamori he showed up today. He had a better week. I thought he was making an impact out there, and it was good, really good to see, because he's got a lot of talent and he was into it for sure.
One of the things that maybe you found is a kickoff guy the last couple of
No
years.
kidding.
I mean,
90.
talk about Nate a
All
little
but
bit.
1 or 2 were,
Mhm.
So that's a huge worry. It's been a worry for us, but he answered the bell. I think he no question that was a big deal, because they're good on the return game, and he negated some of that.
And you took the run game away too. I mean, they weren't able to maul you, and they made him a little bit one-dimensional. You could get after him a little bit more with him.
Yeah, and I think when they got behind, I think they were going to throw it more, but they split some. Our defense fought. I don't think wasn't our best defensive game overall, but from a intensity standpoint, and staying in the game, creating some turnovers. I mean, they kept fighting all the way to the end. The last turnover on the punt thing we were just lucky there, but the other ones we had, and then there were a couple that I thought we had them off the field, and I'll have to watch the film on the pass interference stuff, because it seemed like it was the same guy, but not our guy. But I'll watch it on film, because that was pretty frustrating, because we would have got off the field a couple times with that.
You were able to take their tight end out of the game for most of it. Do you feel like your group did a good job getting him on the line?
I don't know. He made a lot of plays. I think what we tried to do is force him to throw it, and we can do some stuff. But I think we were solving that. But I wish we were close to getting a couple sacks, and we just got to finish that job. But they played hard. I mean, those guys played with a lot of passion, and that was the best thing I saw for our guys. I said, we got to play West Virginia football playing hard. It needs to be different than anybody else is playing hard. And that was kind of my challenge to our guys, that our standard of playing hard has to be shown today.
The turnovers, going a little bit more on that. They didn't turn the ball over this season, hardly at all. Did you feel that you guys are ready to start getting some?
I don't know. The quarterback's got some experience. Anytime you play an experienced guy, it's hard to kind of get him. We had some different coverages, I think, and that might have held on the ball a little bit. Obviously, Scruggs' big play was we got a little pressure, and he just did a great break on the ball. So we needed that to win. You're not going to beat a ranked team on the road without some turnovers, probably, and that made a big difference.
That's West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez following a double-digit victory as double-digit underdogs over number 22 Houston. Mountaineers getting the job done on the road, 45-35. Not just their first Big 12 win under Coach Rodriguez, but their first road win of the season. Mountaineers now 3-6 overall, 1-5 in the Big 12, earning their first ranked win away from home since 2018. We bring back Cody Nespor, Golden Blue Nation's digital beat reporter. So Cody, now the question is, can WVU continue to keep things rolling? Upward trajectory since a low point in the season against UCF, better performance against TCU, finally getting over the hump and getting a victory against Houston. Now you take on a Colorado team, and it's possible that coming into this game, West Virginia may be the favorite to win at home against a Buffalo squad led by Coach Deion Sanders that also has had a down year this year. Give us your early analysis on this upcoming matchup as the Mountaineers get ready to return to home.
Yeah, Colorado plays tonight. I'm really interested to see how they respond. They got their butts kicked last week against Utah. How they respond tonight against Arizona, like that's a winnable game for them. If they come out and they play a great game like West Virginia did, then it sets up next week as like, hey, a decent contest between two teams that need a win here at the end of the season. If they come out tonight and they're flat, like that's not great for them. And that's not great for them having to come here next week. So that'll be interesting. Colorado's been all over the map this year. They've looked great. I mean, they have talent, right? And it's just it might be a scenario where maybe the puzzle pieces just don't fit together perfectly, and they're just having to figure out, kind of like West Virginia, right? Like West Virginia's just been figuring it out all year, and finally today, those puzzle pieces did fit, and the picture was pretty. Colorado's kind of in the same scenario where they have talent, right? Like Utah's really good, so they beat them by a bunch, but it's not a cakewalk team, right? Like I don't need to say that. Like West Virginia knows that, but it will be interesting to see how they respond tonight.
For sure, Cody, and I think it's also interesting when you look at the greater landscape in the Big 12. Like West Virginia got dinged by injuries right away, and the hits just kept on coming. But now some of the other teams in the conference are also dealing with similar things, and maybe that levels the playing field a little bit for West Virginia. What this upcoming stretch could have been its toughest stretch in the regular season, playing some teams that were contending for a Big 12 championship. But they take care of business against Houston. The Buffaloes are not what they were a season ago. They're having a down year. Who knows what Arizona State is going to be like without Sam Leavitt? And then you've got that game against Texas Tech coming up after an open week. And earlier in the year, it looked like that might be a game where Texas Tech is getting ready to play for a Big 12 title game berth to contend for the college football playoff. Things have gotten a little bit rocky for the Red Raiders here. I don't know. Stranger things have happened, both for this West Virginia team and in college football in general. It's just kind of been a wild and wacky season across the country, which is what we come to expect. So we're going to see how things play out here for WVU, and hopefully this upward trajectory can continue. So that's coming up Saturday at home at Milan Puskar Stadium. It is another noon kick for WVU. You can watch the game on TNT, True TV, or HBO Max if you have that streaming service. In the meantime, a ton of other things happening on campus for WVU this week, including basketball season openers. Mountaineer women at home Monday at Hope Coliseum. Mountaineer men making their debut at Hope Coliseum Tuesday for Coach Ross Hodges' first game at the helm against Mount St. Mary's. So it should be a fun week of college hoops, Cody. And of course, you can follow Cody's coverage at goldenbluenation.com. Are you excited to get back in the Coliseum?
Yeah, everybody knows basketball is by far my favorite sport. Super excited. Both teams looked great in their exhibitions. I think there's a great preseason buzz. And let's not forget, Nick, women's soccer begins the postseason on Monday.
Well, since you opened the door for soccer, Cody, Mountaineer men coming away with a victory in the Mountain State Derby, 3-0 Friday night. Not to take away, of course, from the Mountaineer women, which finished the regular season with a win and placed second in the Big 12. A quick note on the Mountaineer women. If they're still playing in November and Nikki Izzo-Brown is still coaching, watch out. It doesn't really matter if they're the number 1 seed, or the number 2 seed, the number 5 seed, right? Coach Izzo just gets the job done at this point in the season. In the Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament, she has an incredible track record, so watch out. Watch out. Aside from that, just want to really quickly note, Marcus Caldera, man, what a player, right? What a player. That guy has Marshall's number like nobody else. That team played for the national championship a season ago. And Marcus now has 5 goals in 3 years against Marshall. Hat trick in 23, 2 more Friday night to win 3-0. Dante Huckabee got the other goal. I knew it was over, Cody, very early in the night. In fact, before they even kicked it off. Because West Virginia put out a hype video that was like, Marshall never wins here, and they're not gonna tonight. And then Marshall responded by putting out a hype video of its own that already started making excuses about how West Virginia's playing surface is a little bit moist. That's when I knew what was going to happen in the Mountain State Derby. Anyway, thanks for indulging the soccer talk. I do appreciate it. Cody Nespor, folks, you can follow his coverage of all things WVU, from football and basketball to soccer and even rifle, which also came away with a big victory Saturday afternoon. Cody, appreciate you jumping on the podcast. Thanks as always.
Yeah, always.
All right, that's a wrap on this edition of the Golden Blue Nation podcast. It's brought to you, as always, by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, your premier dental implant destination. If you like the show, we invite you to share it with your friends to help spread the word about our post-game podcast. And, of course, it's also available in video form. You can watch every episode now at goldenbluenation.com, the free Golden Blue Nation app, and on the GBN YouTube page. For Cody Nespor, I'm Nick Farrell signing off. We'll catch you next week after the Colorado game right here on the GBN Pod.